Sherry, and thank you, Betty, for the opportunity to do this virtual program this morning. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say something about the garden, about myself. I am Cecelia Millea, the 2021 to 23 Garden Club of New Jersey president. And as you can, we'll be talking about trees today. I will be speaking about my president's project, which is entitled Plant Trees, Nature's Unsung Heroes. And so I dressed in green so that I would kind of match the topic of today's virtual meeting. The Garden Club of New Jersey is a 4,000 member NGC affiliated state garden club with 99 member clubs. We have 8 districts, and we are a very active garden club. The pandemic put a little bit of a dent in that, but we have been meeting virtually and things are starting to pick up now. I just want to say a few things about the Garden Club of New Jersey. Something that you may not know is that the Blue Star Memorial markers actually began in New Jersey and were initiated by the Garden Club of New Jersey in 1944 as World War II continued in Europe. The Garden Club of New Jersey came up with the idea for an initiative to beautify a 5.2 mile stretch of Union and Somerset County, and to dedicate it, that stretch of highway, to those serving in the armed forces. And it would be called the Blue Star Drive. And it was planted with beautiful dogwoods, I believe pink and white dogwoods, all along the first Blue Star Drive with the Blue Star Memorial marker on Route 22 in Union County. So I just wanted to give you that information. I also just wanted to tell you how involved that I and many members of the Garden Club of New Jersey are involved in the Philadelphia Flower Show. I am a Master Flower Show judge. I've not been doing a lot of that lately. I've been doing a lot of administrative work, but I love to do design and I love horticulture also. But I am currently serving as the arrangement class chairman of the Philadelphia Flower Show. And many of our members over the years have been on the committee, as we call it, as PHS calls it, and we serve in many capacities on the committee, and many Garden Club of New Jersey members also do designs and enter horticulture at the Philadelphia Flower Show. I just want to give a little pitch for the Philly Flower Show and tell you that it will be outdoors in FDR Park for the second year due to the concerns about the pandemic from June 10th to 19th. And by any chance, if any of you out there would like to do a design in the Philadelphia Flower Show this year, come one, come all. You are welcome. It is not just for those designers who live in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, in nearby New Jersey. We have exhibitors actually from all over the country and all over the world. So that's the end of my my little pitch and my information that I shared with you about the Garden Club of New Jersey. So I guess we'll start, Sherry. The Garden Club of New Jersey's 2021 to 2023 President's Project, as I have told you, is Plant Trees, Nature's Unsung Heroes. And I'm going to just give you a little overview of the project. 6 $1,000 grants will be awarded to local New Jersey garden clubs for a project that focuses on the planting of native trees. 3 $1,000 grants will be awarded at our annual meeting in June, and 3 more $1,000 grants will be awarded in 2023 at our annual meeting. And we received many applications. My passion for trees. My love of trees and nature was fostered during my childhood. I grew up in southern Connecticut, right near the ocean, where there was a wooded area of several acres, just 2 doors from my home. The undeveloped natural woodland served as a playground for all the neighborhood children. On hot summer days, sitting under the large trees in the woods with a friend offered respite from the heat. We played, we discovered, we forged trails, we looked for snakes, and had great fun in the wonderful woodland. Surprisingly, that woodland was designated green acres way back a long time ago in the 1950s or 60s and remains untouched today on Chestnut Street in Connecticut. This childhood experience has made me realize the importance of trees to society as a whole and to our environment, and generated in me a deep concern about their continuing destruction. Worldwide deforestation causes. Did you know that almost 1/2, to be exact, 46% of the world's forests have been destroyed? A major cause of deforestation is, first and foremost, commercial agriculture. The clearing of the land to plant crops worldwide has led to the destruction of millions of acres of forest, and they continue to be sacrificed for commercial agriculture profits. Other causes, of course, are wildfires, logging, and urban sprawl. I don't know if you do recall, but I want to mention the extensive wildfires in Oregon in 2020, which destroyed more than 1 million acres of forested land. Next slide, please. I'm going to state the obvious. Look at those beautiful trees. Why we decided to go with native trees, because they are hardier, require less water and fertilizer, and they support lots of insect life. We received many grants or applications for the Plant Trees, Nature's Unsung Hero grants. And many, excuse me, there's a cough. Many of them were innovative and so interesting. One project plans to establish a community tree nursery planted with 50 native tree saplings cared for over a period of 5 to 7 years. Then the trees will be planted where other trees have been lost in the community. After the initial purchase of 50 trees, additional saplings will be purchased each year to build a rotating inventory of trees when the nursery is fully established. The project is a collaboration involving the local Rotary Club, County Park Commission, of course, the local garden club that submitted this application, and volunteers. Other outstanding grant submissions. First of all, the Parker Homestead to enhance the landscaping and the natural environment of the historic Parker Homestead. The Garden Club is planting native trees. By the way, the Parker Homestead was continually inhabited by one family since 1665. In addition to planting native trees, they plan to educate visitors about the importance of native trees to the environment. Next is the replacement of trees that were lost in a 25-acre public park included on the national and New Jersey list of historic places. That park was designed and constructed over 100 years ago by Brindley and Holbrook in collaboration with the Olmsted firm, a very special park. Next, another application or represented a garden club that is trying to restore the tree canopy by planting native trees in a community not far from me that is known for its beautiful tree-lined streets. And there were many more applications, but I'll mention one more, and that was an application submitted by a garden club that is planning to plant native trees in a land trust area with several trails. The area is located along a river and is in a floodplain. The goal is to help control flooding and subsequent erosion. Next slide. I gotta take a sip of water. No, I'm passionate about trees, and I'm always looking for great tree quotes. And I found this one, so I wanted to share it with you. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Fun tree facts. I'm going to share a few with you. About 3 trillion trees currently exist. 3 trillion. Earth has more than 60,000 known tree species. Trees didn't exist for the first 90% of Earth's history. Before trees, Earth was home to fungi that grew 26 feet tall. And the first known tree was a leafless fern-like plant from New York, they say, from the Big Apple. Next slide. So I very much want to thank all of you for joining us this morning. And I have included a photo of one of my grandsons. His name is Levi, and he just turned 2. And this past weekend, he helped his dad plant this little evergreen. And there he sits, I'm not sure why, either admiring his work or just contemplating that little tree. But the message is the two of them can grow together. And I feel that supports another of my favorite tree quotes, and that is, plant trees, invest in the future. Introducing Meg Lowman, Canopy Meg. So Canopy Meg is pre-recorded. I do want to tell you that. Who knows where she is in the world exploring the tree canopy, but I want to tell you a little something about her. Dr. Margaret Lowman, also known as Canopy Meg, is a world-renowned arborist. She is a global pioneer in forest canopy ecology. Meg is an arborist, author, educator, and public speaker who refers to herself as an Arbornaut. She explores the tree canopy of forests around the globe, from the jungles of the Amazon to the forests of Malaysia, India, and beyond. She is the founder of Mission Green, which promotes global tree conservation. It is my pleasure to introduce a presentation, a pre-recorded presentation by Dr. Margaret Lowman, Canopy Meg. Thank you. Plant trees, invest in the future.
Thank you again for everybody that joined us today, and we'll start this great video.
Hello there. It's great to be with you, even though I'm on Zoom. And I'm so honored that the Garden Club of New Jersey has invited me to speak. And as a long-term Garden Club of America Speakers Bureau woman, I'm really excited to be with all of you plant lovers. So today, in very short order, I'm excited to share some news about the treetops, my expertise in botany, and also explain to you a little bit about some new initiatives that we're using to help save forest canopies and involve women in indigenous parts of the world where they live in forests that really need our help. So come along on this trip and hopefully you will learn some new things about canopies and some ideas that maybe all of us can share to save forests. As I guess some of you know, if you might have read a few of my books, including a few textbooks now and then, I grew up in upstate New York, not too far from a lot of you, and my backyard looked like this. So as a kid, of course, I was really amazed that all the trees changed color, and in the winter, there were no leaves. So boy, did I get a surprise when I ended up studying tropical trees that stay green all the time. So that might have been the beginning of my botany passion. Playing outside, living in upstate New York and having fabulous trees like this. The other childhood message that I had along the way is that there were mostly boys involved in science. And here I am in the 5th grade science fair in Cortland, New York, as a young girl surrounded by mostly boys and showing my wildflower collection that did earn me a 2nd prize, which is a total miracle, and gave me a little bit of hope that maybe girls could indeed pursue science. And that's really instilled me with a passion for trying to get the next generation of girls more engaged in science. And I think that's a similar mission for the garden clubs in general. The other funny thing along my journey as a child is that one of my next door neighbors was a funny guy named Tommy Hilfiger, and he was as passionate about clothing as I was about plants. So lo and behold, he went on to start a fashion empire and I went on to be a botanist. So to this day, we always tell kids, pursue your passion, no matter what it is, and who knows where you might end up. He's pictured here with his sister, who is still my best friend, and she sometimes helps me design good khaki clothing that I can wear when I'm climbing around in the canopy. So with all that, I want to give you a little chronology of where we stand on the science of canopies, because it's a pretty new area of study. And as you might recall, if you've ever read anything about trees, it wasn't until the 1980s that we first started studying the treetops. And lo and behold, in 1979, I was this crazy graduate student at the University of Sydney, where I sewed a harness out of seatbelt webbing and I welded a slingshot out of a piece of metal. And lo and behold, I borrowed a couple of ropes from the caving club and used that slingshot to put my rope over a branch, and away I went as one of the world's first Arbornauts, we call it. Astronauts study outer space, but mind you, they started in the 60s by landing on the moon, and Arbornauts study the tops of trees, which really wasn't started until the 1980s. In 1985, I realized that not everyone can climb on a rope. So lo and behold, I helped design the first canopy walkway, which was in Queensland, Australia. And since then, we've built those all around the world, which is fabulous, and more on that later. Another tool in my very modest toolkit as an Arbornaut is the occasional opportunity to have a construction crane dedicated to treetop work. There are only about 10 of those around the world, but that's become a really great way to have a permanent base in the treetops, but limited only to those branches that you can reach within the arm of the crane. Fourth, we have this amazing migration of these canopy walkways from Australia to North America. And I give a little tribute here to my alma mater, Williams College, where I helped build the first canopy walkway in North America. And all of my students did fantastic original research on temperate trees. Following again in the chronology, we soon came across the French scientists who creatively designed inflatables in the treetops, and I was part of their expeditions for better than a decade, where we took these crazy hot air balloons and rafts and went to places around the world with amazing tropical forests, and were able to get to the very, very top, which is really incredible and also a lot of fun, I might add. Following in this canopy chronology, we had finally the first public canopy walkway in North America, which was built down in Sarasota, Florida, near where I was the director of Selby Botanical Gardens at the time. And this walkway now hosts 500,000 visitors a year, brings in about $24 million in annual revenue to the community. So it's become a real driver of not just ecology education, but also economy and education of kids. All the schools come to visit this fabulous little activity out in the trees of Florida, which is really, really fun. So finally, to fund that walkway and to fund other programs for girls in science, I started a foundation in 2001 that since has become the driver of a lot of conservation programs and a lot of different activities around the world to foster treetop conservation. And to sum it all up, if you're a reader in August of this 2021, you might be able to pick up my book called The Arbornaut, which is being published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux. And I'm really excited that it reports about being a woman in science. And it also hopefully ends on a positive note to explain a lot about different ways that we can all work together to save our precious forests around the world. So with that chronology, we can move on and have a little bit of a look at what is going on behind the scenes to save trees. This is the mission of my foundation. Very simple, TREE stands for Tree Research, Education, and Exploration. And over time, it's expanded to host all sorts of programs, both local and global, from saving the forests of Ethiopia, which are highly endangered, and I'll talk about that later, to allowing underserved and underprivileged kids to access forest canopies, including kids in wheelchairs, including, of course, girls that oftentimes aren't considered to be as good a tree climber as maybe their brothers. So that's been a great opportunity over many years to fund some of these programs. With that, we've started up some different ideas. We have a treetop camp in upstate New York. We have on the right the third graders in Florida that discovered a new species of weevil because we hosted the field trips for K through 12 to our local canopy walkway here in Florida, and all kinds of neat things going on wherever we can get kids out into nature. Just like the Garden Club, our Tree Foundation is behind those types of programs wherever possible. Even my own boys, of course, for better, for worse, I guess it was a dictatorship because I was a single mom. They ended up to be good Arbornauts themselves. And here they are way back in their elementary school days, coming to Belize with their mom to help climb a canopy walkway and make new discoveries about the biodiversity in the forests of Central America. So over time, we've had all kinds of amazing treetop adventures for big kids, such as adults, and for little kids, and for students in between, including those wheelchair college students that I mentioned, which were funded by the National Science Foundation to make new discoveries in temperate trees. So all kinds of wonderful things have been happening with our treetop exploration. But still, a lot of people don't understand the importance of trees. And so I've started trying to talk with corporate groups, with businesses, with whatever possible to explain the importance of making trees a sustainable resource. And in a nutshell, probably all of you Garden Club members know this, but trees filter water and provide us with fresh water, oxygen. Of course, they provide us with timber, as well as food and cloth materials in many cases. They conserve soil with their root systems. They house up to 50% of the species on the land part of the planet. And now, because of our canopy work, we know that they store carbon that is part of the pollution that human beings emit. And they also control our climate in amazing ways. One thing that's harder to value in terms of dollars is the fact that they are an enormous spiritual heritage and sanctuary for over 2 billion people in other parts of the world, usually outside of North America. But that's a really, really important thing to think about. So these trees are not only wonderful and beautiful and fun to grow, but they are absolutely essential for life on Earth. So that led me to thinking hard about the fact that we're losing these trees. And despite all the great science that's going on around the world, we are totally losing forests at a very rapid rate. And it's very, very scary. So I've recently launched a new program. I'm thrilled to share it with all of you, called Mission Green. And that is to globally promote tree conservation, economic stewardship, and science education through partnerships with scientists, with Indigenous people, students, and also philanthropists. So I'm really excited to launch this new program. I have lots of amazing people engaged, and hopefully the Garden Club might even become part of that. So why Mission Green? And I guess what would you do if you had 40 years of tree experience and you had worked in 46 countries? It kind of seems silly that I should retire and do nothing while forests burn and get cleared. So this has kind of been my swan song, or my own inspiration, to figure out a way that we can save some of the most important forests before I end up in the soil, giving my nutrients back to the ecosystem. This Mission Green will operate both locally and globally. And at the local level, of course, we can help local communities with all of those basic important pieces of what trees provide for them. And at a global level, we can, here's kind of my college lecture slide, but we can make sure that forests maintain our climate and keep our atmosphere healthy, and absolutely fuel food chains, because of course green trees are that amazing building block that provides the energy for the planet, not to speak of which they also sustain all those species. So this is really, really critical for all of us to stay alive. Here are a little illustrations of a few of those favorites of some of those 50% of species that live in our treetops. I've had the privilege of discovering many new species, but I also want to be honest and tell you that probably 95% or maybe 90% of what lives up there has not yet ever been discovered, simply because there aren't too many Arbornauts to go around. And certainly we haven't climbed every tree in the world at this point in time. So this is a really important library of species that we need to maintain for the future. And sad to say, I think all of you are aware of the fact that last year in particular was an enormous loss for forests. We had fires in Australia, in the Amazon, in Siberia, in California, and all kinds of clearing continued to go on as many forests become hotter and drier. So it absolutely requires all of us plant lovers and all of us moms and dads and citizens to think really hard about how we can be part of solutions. So the fact is clear, planet Earth has to keep her forests intact and healthy to survive. So here's Mission Green and what we hope to do. We want to conserve these important forests. We want to protect the biodiversity that lives in them. And we hope that we can provide the people that live in these forests with jobs and a mission themselves, because they can't just live in a glass bubble. They have to have their own economics, and their own families have to advance in certain ways. So how can we do that? Well, back to that original canopy walkway in Australia and the canopy walkway here in Myakka River State Park in Florida. I think we can use these walkways to drive ecotourism and build them in the most critical forests, and in turn hire women and families and local people to operate them. And this has already been proven in a couple cases, but right now we are prioritizing the subtropical forests of Florida, the Amazon and Peru and Brazil, the Gorongosa National Park in Mozambique, the amazing rainforests of Madagascar and the Western Ghats in India and the Royal Manas National Park in Bhutan, all as centers of enormous biodiversity in places where we would love to have local women and families operating these amazing walkways. But we need to build them, and we need to fund them, and we need to teach people about the trees. So here are our 3 elements for success of this program. We have a proven conservation model, which I'll explain in a minute. We have world-class scientific experts backing this project, which I will illustrate. And we have the advantage of local leadership, because all of these 6 sites have amazing people put into place, and they have developed trust with those of us who are part of Mission Green. What is our successful model? Well, we have to thank the marine community, because my friend Sylvia Earle, who's been an amazing oceanographer for many, many decades, started a program called Mission Blue, where she identified hope spots in the ocean, as she called them, places that needed conservation. And she simply shouted about it and told people about it and encouraged the local communities to do something about it. And lo and behold, she now has 127 of those. So we want to build hotspots or create hotspots in the forest region, hence Mission Green, that would be based on Sylvia's fantastic and successful model. We have an amazing team of experts that are part of our advisory board. E.O. Wilson, the father of biodiversity from Harvard, Sylvia Earle, of course, and some other greats in the plant world that some of you might know, such as Peter Raven, Emeritus Director of Missouri, his wife Pat, former Botanical Garden Director, my botanical colleague in Ethiopia, Alamaihu, Dr. Pat Wright from Madagascar, and Dr. Wade Davis, an expert on the Amazon. So this group will be our guiding lights, and we are so honored that they have signed on board for Mission Green. Here's our emeritus board chair, Ed Wilson. If you haven't read his book, Half Earth, you must, because he outlines there those very forests that we need to preserve. And we are going with his amazing expertise and his network of famous biologists who created the list for Mission Green in order that we might save the most important forests first and foremost. Our local leadership is really strong. We have colleagues in every one of our sites who are on board and ready to go to work and create that local trust, which is so important for successful forest conservation projects. And because of my childhood and my own passion, we will be very, very top heavy engaging women and girls in our programs, which I'm really, really excited about. A little case study quickly, the church forests of Ethiopia are a great example of urgent need for conservation. Less than 4% of these forests are left, and they're all in the churchyard, as you can see here in this picture, the little round church in the center, and then the trees that are the only native forests remaining in Ethiopia. So we need desperately to keep these little tiny green genetic libraries before it's too late and they disappear because cattle get in and eat the seedlings and people chop down the timber because they have no idea that the next valley has already been cleared without technology and without computers to give them beautiful images like this. So we're in Ethiopia doing a great job, I believe, of saving those last forests by partnering with the local leadership, which happens to be the priests. And over the last decade, I've been doggedly visiting Ethiopia, partnering with the church, giving workshops to all the priests and explaining to them the importance of their forests. So much so that of their own volition, they've built these beautiful stone walls around their churches, and we're helping to fund them, which is not expensive because we just have to build some gates and build some, allow the stones to get shipped on trucks into some of the villages and valleys. So all in all, it's become an amazing program where the local people love these walls, they love saving their trees, and now they know the importance of saving their forests. And the kids in particular have never had a class in botany or biodiversity, and they're keen to learn about their local special animals and plants. And we've tried to develop some kiddie programs along the way, making t-shirts with their local flora and fauna, and even writing a book in Amharic, their native language, to teach the kids about the importance of trees. So in every place we go, we have to have this local trust and local education to make our canopy conservation programs successful. Here's my favorite job in the world, which is giving books to kids in Ethiopia, because these kids have never even owned a book before. It's such a joy to see their faces light up when they get their first book, and especially because it's in their own language. So in summary, we have our working model that's really successful from other places. We have earmarked these forests to save. We are on track to raise funds to build these walkways and train local women to become the educators and the ecotourism operators of these sites. We have a fabulous development director, one of your very own, a Garden Club member, Deb Heineman from New York City, who will be part of our fundraising team. And we also have some fabulous people around the world and around the country to help our science advisory group succeed in this. So please share the word. Some of you may choose to get involved and come to one of these countries with us. Others may just choose to read more about it and educate kids. You can buy my book and learn about some of these sites and see the mission and see what we're doing. But I'm really excited to have all of you share the word with all of your communities and friends. We need to conserve trees, period, especially big trees. And we need to do it yesterday, not tomorrow. So thanks